So thank you all for coming to this meeting, everybody. This is going to be kind of more of an informational style meeting-ish because this is our first meeting. I know we have a lot of new members or new potential members here with us today. So welcome to the Rural Reimagined Club first meeting of the semester. I'm Kester Newcomb. I'm currently serving as the president this year, and I'll introduce the officers and our speakers in a little bit, but has everyone here heard of at least heard of Rural Reimagined or Tech's Grand Challenge? Is everyone familiar or at least heard of it, kind of? Awesome.
I have.
Awesome. Well, for those who are for those who are just a little bit unsure what Rural Reimagined is, Rural Reimagined is Tennessee Tech's Grand Challenge initiative to essentially harness science, technology, and innovation to transform rural living. Essentially, a grand challenge is usually this big, ambitious, yet achievable goal that usually a college, or institutions creates that basically solves an important problem that our society, that our nation faces, and it has the great potential to capture the public's imagination. So there's grand challenges on anything from water contamination to Dr. Blair used to teach at UC Boulder, and theirs is on space exploration. But Tech in March of 2019, Tech decided to go do Rural Reimagined, because if you look at the map right there, Cookeville, where we are at, is located in the heart of the Upper Cumberland. And for those of you who are very unfamiliar to the area, like I was last year, we are in one of the most rural yet most distressed areas of Tennessee. And as you all may know, rural areas are very overlooked and very underserved in our nation today. And so that's why Tech in March 2019 decided to launch Rural Reimagined. Actually, it was the President Oldham who decided to launch it in accordance with Governor Bill Lee's vision to help economically develop rural communities. That's why we created Rural Reimagined. And so we are very excited that you are all here to take part of that, since this is a university-wide initiative, and we want as many students and faculty from all different majors and from all different disciplines to join as well. So the Rural Reimagined Club is essentially this it's the premier student organization underneath the Rural Reimagined. We are mainly committed to service, and we are open to all majors, and we are free to join. So we don't have any dues, so you won't have to pay a single thing to join our club. And we will have t-shirts available to purchase later. So we're getting work on that. And Bailey Hooper, she created an amazing design that we are going to implement next year, that we are going to try get created. So we'll be on the lookout for that. And the Rural Reimagined Club's essential mission is, this year, our direction is we're going to try to build awareness and advocacy for rural communities. So essentially, as members or potential members of the club, we don't simply want you to just be members of the club. We want you to go out and become advocates and leaders as part of Tech's Generation Rural to truly impact rural communities, whether that be in research or civic engagement or entrepreneurship. Whatever your interest may be, we want to help you find that footing and get you connected with all the opportunities that Tech has to offer and the community has to offer to really impact rural areas. And so our goal as a club itself is to perform one big cross-disciplinary service project each semester, and we'll actually talk about that in a bit. But this is a project that we want, that it's not just solely focused to one major or one discipline. It's one where anyone, and we want to find everyone's interest to get involved with that. And so that's a little bit about our club. Regarding our service projects in our club, last year was the first year that we implemented the Rural Reimagined Club. So we are fairly new, but we are growing, and we're very excited to see you all here. And so our first project was a rural book display. This idea came from Dr. Blair, and its main aim is to promote awareness and on rural issues and literature. So it's right next to the Aubon Pain in the library. And we do need more suggestions for the books. So if you have any suggestions on what books can be added, please let us know. We would love to just expand that and really spiffen it up so that we could, get more students reading rural issues and literature. We also have an education. We also did an education PSA. That idea was created by Dr. Julie Baker, the Associate Dean of the College of Education, and the aim is to mitigate teacher shortages in rural areas, since many rural areas and schools do face a lot of they don't find as many qualified teachers. And so we created, there were 20 students who created 20 videos from all 9 colleges at Tech. There were 14 counties represented to essentially go in and inspire students to pursue teaching careers in their own rural areas. So we are very excited about that. I know Dr. Baker is going to work hard to figure out how to promote these. And something interesting that we'll talk about our next meeting is that there is an opportunity to be on the radio with Stonecom. And you don't have to be, you didn't have to have a video. Well, if you're a new member or you're a member from last year, if you're interested in being interviewed on the radio to talk about Rural Reimagined or talk about the education, just a teacher that has impacted you, or why teachers should go back, why students should go back and be teachers, please, we'll let you know more information about that. And so as you can see, there's a video by Kinsey Potter, our last year's president, and now she's the graduate assistant for the Grand Challenge over there. So,
hey, Kester,
yes.
Can I add a couple? Will you go back to that last slide?
Yeah.
The bookshelf project and these like 30-second videos are easy things that we can do. So if any of our new members or any of our members from last year can think of any other projects that are totally within our means, things we don't have to like go above and beyond to actually create, but could make a pretty big impact, please let Kester know, and we would take any suggestions. So the book display took like 2 emails, and that was it. And the library took care of most of it. And then the videos were simply just communicating with people on how to do the project itself. And then everyone submitted their own video. So if you have any ideas for how to kind of engage rural issues in the future, just let Kester know.
Definitely. And we kind of took that approach for our 2 projects this year, because with COVID and everything, we can't really go out and do something super, super big, even though I really wanted to be really ambitious and do something huge, but we can definitely use this year to plan. So our first idea that we're going to partner with Historic Rugby. And we have a couple of speakers who will come in, Dr. Blair and Dr. McQuail, and hopefully if Jordan Hughett's here, we would love to talk about Historic Rugby is this Victorian utopia that is located about, I think it's an hour and a half outside of Tech. Is that right? And essentially, it's a very beautiful historic area, very beautiful natural area. And unfortunately, due to COVID, the travel and tourism in the area has been impacted negatively. So that's why we would love to help promote rugby and through through this service project. So essentially, it's going to be a book club, and we want to have students like you all to lead discussions on relevant rural issues through literature, and essentially we will work with Historic Rugby to get this started, where you can also have be with members of the community, be with members in rugby to essentially just learn, not only be more exposed and aware of what's going on in rural areas and tie it into your own experiences. And we do want to build community, not only in the Cookeville area, but also with rugby and appreciation for Appalachian culture. Since we believe it's very important for our students and our members to, if we want to really help impact rural areas, we want to help you get more aware of what's going on. And so if you are interested in getting this book club started, please email Tammy, our vice president. I don't know if she's on here. We will send you more information about this in our emails later on. So, and as you can see, this is the Thomas Hughes Free Public Library, and it is thought to be the oldest extant public library in the South. So Rugby has very beautiful historic sites and places to visit. So the second service project we kind of have is this is our Rural Journey speaker series. And this is an idea I had over the summer, and we thought that we wanted to bring community leaders to tech, or virtually to tech, to promote awareness and discussion on cross-disciplinary issues, rural issues, ranging from anything from arts and the humanities to STEM to just whatever you can think of. And this speaker series will allow you to connect with rural advocates from the local community, to ask them questions, to know of opportunities to get involved in the community, to really go and impact rural areas. And we chose to speak, and we are trying to get speakers that appeal to a wide range of people. So our first virtual session is actually October 6th, Tuesday, October 6th at 3 p.m. And we'll be at this same Zoom link. And we have 2 speakers already confirmed. And we're hoping to have 2 speakers at each session for a panel-like discussion. But our first speaker we actually got is Becky Magura. She's the president and CEO of WCTE. Dawson, I think you actually know Becky since I know you work with WCTE, and she's served for 37 years at the local PBS television station that broadcasts to the entire Upper Cumberland region. So definitely, we would love for you to all attend. We'll definitely talk more about it at our next meeting, and really, we would love to see our members attend and just learn more about what's going on and what these leaders have done, so that you can get inspired to find your own ways to really go and transform rural areas. The second speaker we have is on October 27th. It's Dr. Catherine Jones, and she's the principal of Prescott South Elementary School. And Prescott South is one of the 2 only STEM designated schools in the Upper Cumberland. A lot of rural communities are having very huge STEAM shortages. And right now, hopefully we can get the rural STEAM discussion rolling to where we can get schools and we can find ways at tech to go out and promote STEAM education. So we have Dr. Jones going to be with us to talk about her journey getting Prescott South to be STEM designated. So definitely, if you want to know more information, please contact me. We will have more information in our newsletters coming up. And so to introduce everyone, I don't know if you have like everyone pulled up. So I'm your president, and I don't know. So Tammy Nguyen is our vice president. Tammy, if you could wave. So she has her video up, and our treasurer is Michael Gray. I forgot to put you, Bailey, and our marketer is Bailey Kaufman. She doesn't have her camera up, but so we also have one open position. We have our secretary. We need a secretary to record minutes and to just record minutes and to help with some correspondence, stuff like that. So if you are interested in the secretary position, please do consider it in our next meet, and we will elect that position at our next meeting on September 29th. And our faculty advisors are Dr. Jeremy Blair. He's an art assistant. He's an assistant art education professor in the School of Art. Amazing person, and definitely has helped me get this club started up so tremendously. I wouldn't be here if I were without him. So. And Michael Akins, he's the director of the Tech Center for Rural Innovation. He's also one of our advisors as well. He's not on the call because I think he and Kinsey Potter, our previous president, are very busy working with other community leaders in the Upper Cumberland. So they're doing an amazing job. So if you're interested in secretary, please let me know, or just let us know at our next meeting. And definitely we'll elect that position then. Okay, so just a few dates. If we will send this out in an email. So our upcoming meetings will be on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. during dead hour, and they will be held virtually. So we will spend the first 20 or so minutes just doing information dissemination. What do you need to know? What action items need to be created? What opportunities will be? Um, and so these are our upcoming 3 meetings, Tuesday, September 29th, October 20th, and November 10th. They will be on this Zoom link. So if you want to save that, we will resend that every time in our newsletters to notify you of upcoming meetings. And our next meeting's agenda will be officer elections. So for our secretary position, we will have action items for our rugby project. So if you are interested in helping lead the book club, we would all love for you to get involved by at least reading maybe 1 book this semester, getting involved in the discussions, because we want you to all like be very well or exposed to rugby and to Appalachian culture and rural issues. So if you're interested in helping lead that, please email Tammy. She'll help coordinate a lot of our projects. And we will have more information about the radio interview opportunity with Stonecom. So if you're interested, you don't have to, you can be a new member. We would love to have a mix of members who've been in here last year and members who are just new to talk about their experiences with rural schooling and stuff like that, or teachers who have influenced them. So if you're interested in that, please keep a lookout, and we will have more speakers at our upcoming meeting. I'm still getting that taken care of at the moment, so we will have that. And also in our upcoming newsletter, I will send out an email this week containing a lot of information about opportunities to get involved in Rural Reimagined. So they include, I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'll skip that. So we will have a newsletter with a lot of scholarship, internship, and partner organization opportunities. So there are currently a lot of scholarships with the STEM Center, with some new Rural Reimagined grants that have been, the applications are still open. So we'll send information about that, and you can get stipends for it. We do have some internships available with TCRI and with actually a startup by a student here at Tech. So we'll send out the information, and we do partner with a few organizations on campus. What that means is there are some organizations such as the RAM Clinic, iCare, and now we actually are teaming up with Impact TTU, who want to share in our mission of impacting rural communities. Because as the Rural Reimagined Club, we've decided that we don't want simply our club to really go out and impact rural communities. This is a university-wide initiative, so we want to get everyone involved. So if you have a club that you would like to partner with Rural Reimagined on service projects or anything, please let us, feel free to reach out to me, or you can join their clubs, because we will be working heavily with them. So I skipped over this slide. So our Rural Journey Speaker Series, if you have any questions, I know I'll give a few minutes at the end. I'm almost done speaking. So our speaker series will be on Tuesday afternoons at 3 p.m. So we have 3 coming up. The first one is October 6th, and that's with Becky Magura. The second one is Dr. Catherine Jones. And so we will have kind of a theme with like a discussion. And so please attend, please ask questions, please come. We would love to have a good turnout of tech students, since we know that we do want our students to be as informed about the opportunities that tech and the community has to offer to really get involved in trying to be rural advocates and trying to solve rural issues. And our last one is November 17th. We're still getting our speakers figured out for that, but we're hopefully going to get some big community leaders. So be on the lookout for that. And it will be the same link as our Rural Reimagined Club meeting. So you can please save this link somewhere on a sticky note on your laptop or PC, or we'll resend them out every time when we're notifying you about the events. So if you would love to connect with us, if you aren't on our email list already, please either email me at knewcomb42@tntech.edu, or just DM me via Zoom chat. We would love to keep communicating with you. All of our events and all of our action items and opportunities. This is how every time we learn of opportunities to get involved in rural, we will definitely let you all know, since we want you to go out and be rural advocates. And we do have social media accounts. So please follow us on Facebook and Instagram at TN Tech RRC. That is the club's Instagram, where we'll hopefully spotlight student stories, and we'll hopefully have club updates and stuff like that. And we also have our Rural Reimagined initiative as a whole. So that's news about the Grand Challenge. So that's where we'll post stories about grants and and just stories from tech that of our students and our faculty who are doing just amazing jobs at trying to impact rural communities. So please go follow us with that. So does anyone have any questions before we, so we're going to have 3 speakers, and before I introduce them, does anyone have any questions or anything? No? Okay. So if you all have any questions, please feel free to just message me, and please feel free to email me or anything. So I guess we'll introduce our speakers. So is Jordan here on the Zoom call or not yet? Okay. I see Dr. Paget's popped in. So hi, Dr. Paget. Dr. Paget's on our Grand Challenge Committee, and she's been very instrumental at getting our website pulled up. Oh, and please check out our student website as well. We sent that out in our past email, and that gives a lot of information about student opportunities to get involved. So I guess since Jordan's not on the call, I guess we'll just have you, Dr. McQuail and Dr. Blair speak. So our theme for this meeting is historic rugby. So we will be partnering with Historic Rugby, and I decided not to explain a whole lot about it, because that way Dr. McQuail and Dr. Blair could speak about their experiences and what rugby is. So introducing Dr. McQuail is a professor of English here at Tennessee Tech, and she is on Rugby's board of directors. So she knows a lot. She's worked a lot with them. And as you all know, Dr. Blair is an assistant professor of art education. He is in foundation. He's one of the few art teachers in Foundation Hall. So, so definitely, these are 2 amazing faculty to get to know. So definitely, I guess, Dr. McQuail, if you want to start off first and take it away.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. One thing that I want to mention is that Rugby just had a very unfortunate event. The Harrow Road Cafe burned down. So boy, are there opportunities at Rugby. We're faced with that problem on top of the COVID pandemic affecting tourism. But I mean, Rugby always bounces back. And I guess a theme of Rugby since its founding in 1880 has been disaster and recovery. Speaking of pandemics, there was a cholera epidemic at Rugby from the poisoned water, and that was the first blow to really affect Rugby. It was a utopian community founded in 1880 by the British writer Thomas Hughes. And Thomas Hughes sort of wrote the progenitor to Harry Potter, is how I like to describe it, Tom Brown's School Days, which actually was a very, very popular book. It dramatized the school that Thomas Hughes attended, which they call, of course, public schools in England, which basically means private schools for us. A boys' school, and one of the famous Victorian thinkers was the schoolmaster at Rugby. So Rugby got its name from this public/private school. And Tom Brown's School Days is about Thomas Hughes's experience in that school, and sort of, they called it muscular Christianity, the idea that through sports and, proper ethics, boys would grow up to be morally, correct men. Problem with English society that America avoided in its founding was the idea of primogeniture. That meant that the firstborn son inherited everything. Now, you know, it's hard for us as Americans to think of a good side of primogeniture, but if you've seen Downton Abbey, you've seen the dramatization of primogeniture. Estates kept together because of primogeniture. The firstborn son or the closest male relative in Downton Abbey, it was like an American cousin that ended up inheriting the estate. And so that kept all the property within a family. With the so-called second sons, all the sons who weren't firstborn sons, they had a problem in that they didn't inherit the family's estate. And they were gentlemen, so they could only do a few things to keep their class status. So Thomas Hughes, who was himself a member of parliament and also instrumental in working men's colleges, he had the idea of starting a colony, and Rugby is often called the last American colony in the United States. I'm sorry, the last British colony in the United States. He wanted to start a place where second sons could go and earn a living. These second sons went to places like, you know, India and Africa, the far away colonies, and it was a real problem, you know, the idea of preserving their class status. So Rugby was founded as a place for the second sons. It really only had about 10 years of purpose in that sense of being a place for second sons. And besides the cholera epidemic, Margaret Hughes, who was Thomas Hughes's mother and the matriarch. Now, Thomas Hughes never actually moved to Rugby. He visited, but his mother, who was, I think, an octogenarian at the time she moved to Rugby, she did move. And you can imagine what a big deal that was for, you know, an elderly woman. So she was kind of the matriarch of Rugby, and she passed away, I think it was 1888. And at that point, kind of, you know, everything dissipated from Rugby. Luckily, there were always some people, residents of Rugby, who cared enough to kind of keep it up. So to this day, most of the historic buildings survive, including this wonderful library, the Thomas Hughes Public Library, which I learned from Jordan yesterday was the first public library in the southeastern United States. Now that seems kind of far-fetched, but you might know that Andrew Carnegie, the millionaire, established public libraries in the United States. So I think that's true. Now, how did I get involved in Rugby? This was the question I was supposed to answer. I've kind of given Jordan's spiel, and if Jordan is on the call, you know, he should feel free to add more. I think I first got involved in Rugby by seeing a newspaper announcement. Remember newspapers of Founders Day or something at Rugby, and I remember taking a colleague who's no longer actually at Tennessee Tech. She was maybe in her first year, and we drove, and I remember the beautiful drive to Rugby. It's still the same, just a gorgeous drive. We went for a day's entertainment, and I think we saw contra dancing and heard, Appalachian music, and just went on a tour, which you can still do to this day. And then the more I started looking into historic Rugby, and by the way, it was revived in the 1960s by a young man from Deer Lodge. And because of Brian Stagg, just a high school student who wanted to preserve the history of Rugby, to this day, we have historic Rugby, which is a registered historic place and has a board of directors, as Kester said, on which I'm a member. So historic Rugby exists as not just a historic village, but there's actually some small, I guess I would say, housing developments in the area. The houses have to conform to certain architectural styles. There are lots of activities throughout the year, and of course, educational opportunities. The slogan for Rugby is "Fall in love with the village and watch out because it will happen to you." It happened to me. The more connections that I started to see between British literature and Rugby, the more I was blown away. And I'll be brief here. I could go on a long time. Not only Thomas Hughes, who basically is the progenitor of the British boarding school novel with his Tom Brown School Days. But the librarian, the first librarian at Rugby, was a Austro-Hungarian, German-speaking exile from Potsdam, and he moved to London to escape political persecution, essentially. And he found his way to Rugby in the early years. Unfortunately, things didn't work out too well with him, including he moved to Rugby at the end of the growing season, which meant that, you know, he had no prospects really for food. But he was very well educated, and they asked him to be the first librarian at Rugby, and he did a lot of work. Well, to make a long story short, not only was Edward Burts a very interesting person in his own right, we could say that he outed Walt Whitman. Fortunately, he was writing in German, so nobody really followed the story of Walt Whitman's being gay. But he was also best friends with a very important Victorian novelist named George Gissing. And George Gissing was a writer I first read in graduate school. And two of his novels are The Odd Women and New Grub Street, which are just amazing. I mean, he wrote a biography of Charles Dickens too, and he's comparable to Charles Dickens. He's just not as well known. So there's loads of connections with Rugby. There's loads of opportunities. It is such a fascinating place, and I will shut up now.
Thank you so much, Dr. McQuail, for sharing all that. Dr. Blair, would you like to talk about what you're doing with Rugby and how you got involved?
Sure. I mean, as you can tell from Dr. McQuail's kind of just passionate intro into Rugby, there are lots of tracks and routes and connections across our state, across the Atlantic Ocean. So that's one of the things that really intrigued me about Rugby, is that any type of subject I could think of, I really think it could intersect with Rugby in some way. We have, you know, artists, we have professors in literature, we have scientists that are interacting with Rugby. So I think any place that can be like a hub for all this type of knowledge and connection and history, I'm always game for that. And to have it within an hour and 20 minutes of my house was really intriguing. And I think we just went there, me and my wife went there for just like a little day trip. We just hung out all day. We went to there's a really nice state park right next door where you'll see like hikers get kind of lost and they just end up in Rugby, and they're like wondering if they're in like a time warp or something. And just all the buildings are absolutely charming and adorable. And once you get to meet the people that work there, you see the amount of passion and effort that goes into preserving this little village. So all of that stuff really intrigued me just at first as someone that's really interested in history and interested in Appalachia. Both sides of my family are from Harlan and Hazard, Kentucky, and are it's a coal mining family on both sides. So this whole area of the country, I really resonate with. But for me personally, I started obviously being inspired and wanted to connect with Rugby. And I myself am a practicing artist in addition to being a professor. And that's very common for art professors to have their own art practice. And I do a very weird type of photography, and I'm gonna share my screen with you. Let's see if I can get it up here.
If you haven't seen Dr. Blair's art, it's very beautiful, and haven't you shipped off some of your artwork to some galleries just this week?
Yeah, just this week. So I do, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 exhibitions a year of my artwork, and those are typically national exhibitions. Occasionally I'll do some international ones. But this is just the general artwork that I make. So I am a cameraless photographer, which might sound really bizarre to all of you. Give me a nod if that sounds weird to you, being a cameraless photographer. So that's good. So I always want to do things that are a little different. So basically how I make cameraless photos is I have a black canvas tent, and I take that tent out into the forest and I turn it into a mobile darkroom. So I don't have a sink. I don't have those special red lights that are called safe lights. I actually outfit my tent so that I don't need those things. I have a flashlight that I put a special filter on so I can use that as a safe light instead of having like a light switch with a light. And I'll go out into the forest, I'll put my tent up, and I'll create a mobile darkroom, and then I will collect items that I find. So even on the right here, this big deer antler, I just found that in the forest. So I have my darkroom in the forest, and I am in the environment. So I am in a rural environment. And I do a lot of artist residencies where I actually go live on someone's property. Someone like last year, I was in North Carolina on top of a mountain in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And then before that, I was in Hohenwald, Tennessee, which is just country, way past, like an hour and a half past Nashville. And I just lived on these people's properties and foraged materials, searched for things. And darkroom photography takes a lot of water. You actually have like trays filled with water that you mix with chemicals. I actually dip my trays into the local water source. So I get clean, like actual clean water from nature first and bring it into my tent. And then I will put in eco-friendly chemicals into that water once it's in my tray. And then I'll process it like a pretty traditional darkroom photo. So I don't use film. And the way it works is, let me grab a piece of paper here. So I'll take a piece of paper like this, and I'll be in my tent zipped up. So it's like really hot in there, and I have my water and my trays and my chemicals. And then I'll take an item that I find. So say I find this beautiful item, which is my keys. I'll lay that item directly on the paper, and then I will open a little flap on my tent, and that'll act like a shutter on a camera. So I'll let light in and then shut it. And then I'll take the item off, and I'll put this through a few different chemicals that are in my tent. And then what you see on the screen is what I created. So I don't have a camera, I don't have a lens, I don't have film, which means I can make it's almost like having a Polaroid. Like I am an instant Polaroid machine. So the reason why I'm sharing this is, let me share my other thing. I am going to be doing a workshop. Let me bring that up for you. I'm going to be doing a workshop in Rugby because this is a story that our past president, Kinsey, wrote for me. The idea of doing very early methods of photography fits perfectly with Rugby, because Emily Hughes, who was the niece of Thomas Hughes, the founder of Rugby, actually practiced these very early techniques. It's not the same thing that I'm doing, but she did a lot of like glass plate photography, which is some of the very first types of mobile photography that people were experimenting with in the mid to late 1800s. So photography itself, what we know as photography, was discovered in 1838. And Emily Hughes was experimenting herself, being a very affluent person. She was able to have this type of equipment. So we're going to do a stripped down version with the process that I just shared with you in Rugby. We're not going to use my tent because it's too small for social distancing. So we're actually going to turn an old laundry room that is in their education center, which is behind the visitor center. I'm going to turn that into a dark room. It's like absolutely perfect to change into a dark room. And I'm going to teach whoever signs up for this workshop how to do these very simple techniques and just have a very basic understanding of early photographic processes. So I'll post these links in our chat in just a second, so you can go to these. If you're interested, there's a link at the bottom. You go to that link, and then there's a phone number that you're supposed to call to register. And this will be on October 10th, coming up next month. And I need like one more set of hands, okay? So I need one more set of hands. So if you're interested in art, culture, photographic processes, anything like that, I would be grateful. And I would teach you how to do the whole thing. And you would just basically help me monitor And basically how the workshop will work is these 10 people, whoever signs up, these 10 people will learn some of the basic processes. Then they're going to go out into the town of Rugby or the village of Rugby and actually forage materials that they can find. So that could be anything that's organic, any of the plants, rocks, plants, anything like that, anything that's organic that they can actually forage. We'll bring that back to the education center, and then they'll create brand new compositions with those objects, just like you saw with some of my work. And then I guess lastly, I'll mention, I wanted to do this not just because as an artist, I think this is a fun adventure to go on, but I think if you have a certain set of skills, even if it's a weird set like I have, and you can help connect with, a local organization or a town that might need some webs, those extra webs of connections, I'm very welcome to do that. And to just be a part of this Tennessee history. So me doing this little workshop and having some artwork in their gallery that's on their little street there, I'm contributing to this story living on and moving forward for the generations. So can you think of anything else after that rant, Kester, that I should bring up?
I don't think so. That's awesome. Actually, Jordan came on, so
good. Bring him in.
I know we have about 5-10 minutes left. If anyone needs to leave early to get to class, that's totally okay. But if y'all don't mind, Jordan Hughett is the development associate at Historic Rugby. I've heard Kinsey has told me so many amazing things about you, Jordan. So if you would like to share, Dr. McQuail gave us kind of a little rundown, but if you want to share anything about rugby or your journey, how you got to rugby, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm so sorry. We had something else come up, and I didn't realize, so I just got in my truck and drove back here. I thought I got another meeting. I'm so sorry.
That's totally
I'm so sorry. Forgive me, okay? But folks, just to give you, I don't know what all Dr. McQuail talked about, and I'll get that on in a minute. But Rugby was a Victorian village founded in 1880 here on the plateau, and it was an idea about getting people together and joining to make a better life for themselves. Thomas Hughes, the founder, was specifically thinking about the second sons of the English gentry, because back then the oldest sons inherited all the money, the house, the land, the servants, and the younger sons didn't receive anything. But he also said, when the town opened in October of 1880, he said he wants North and South, British and American, black and white here. This was a multicultural community. And the librarian was German. There were French colonists. There were Dutch colonists. There were African Americans who'd been former enslaved people. There were local Tennessee farmers. There were people from Boston and New York, and there were people from London. There were really a hodgepodge. There was a gentleman from Australia. They all decided to come together here to make a better life for themselves. And that is the basic rundown behind what rugby was. I don't know what other questions you have.
Could you tell us about how, what you do at rugby and how you got involved in it?
Hey, yeah, anything and everything is really what I do. I got involved. I've lived in the area my whole life. I was born and raised 30 minutes from where I'm sitting, actually. And I lived in the area my whole life. We used to come, and my family would drive through here if we were going to Nashville. This used to be the main highway, which is just outside the door here. And so we used to drive through here to go to Nashville, or if we need to go to Cookeville or anywhere. And I came on a tour when I was in middle school with my parents. And then when I got to be in high school, I started playing music at events and started volunteering here. Got to meet Dr. McQuail, got to meet other people down here. And when I was at Tennessee Tech, in one of my history classes, I saw a poster that said, jobs at Historic Rugby. And they were hiring some summer positions. And so I saw that poster, and I put in my application. I sent in my resume, had some friends of mine who lived down here to put in a good word for me. And I've been here for a little over 2.5 years. I do a little bit of everything. I do exhibits, I do tours, I write scripts, I do social media. It looks like I'm talking to mostly younger audience, and you know how tough it can be with social media, you know, with especially if you work in an organization. I'm one of the younger staff members, probably by about 20 or 30 years for the next youngest one maybe. But anyway, I do a lot of social media for them. I make the posters because also I have that tech savvy, that little bit of tech savvy there to make the posters. And I'm hoping that working with Rural Reimagined, that we can take Rugby, which is an 1880s village, and maybe we can take sort of the management side on into the 21st century, because we're behind, and I hate to say it, but we really are. We're really behind. We would like to do an online store at some point, and we need some help trying to figure out how we can develop and maintain and engage people with an online store. Another thing is our marketing. I mean, we want to, typically when you see people who come to museums, it's baby boomers. These people are 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, and we would also like to gear towards a younger audience. There's actually private land here in Rugby. We have people who live up here, but most of those people are older, over 60 plus. And so we're needing to find a way that we can direct and look for a younger audience, and not even just through history. It can be through nature. It can be through, it can be through hiking. It can be through tourism. So we need, because because we're all younger, we need that sort of background to say, well, what are younger people looking for? People, 40 and younger, when they come to a place like this, what do they want to see? What do they want to do while they're here?
So what are some ways that, if you don't mind me interrupt, what are some ways that, so I know we have quite a few business majors in here, some accounting majors, some engineering majors. What are some ways that the people, regardless, if they're in business, if they're doing College of Business, or they're in engineering or nursing or education, how can they get involved in Rugby already? So
okay, well, and one, I mean, it can be if you can contact me or contact us and just let us know your interest, we can surely find something for you. For people who are involved with business, like I said, we're trying to find a way that we can market some of our stuff on the internet. We provide, as Mr. Blair was talking about, we provide an outlet store for local crafters, and we would like to be able to expand their market just a little bit. The internet has made that so popular for people to do that through their own home, but how could an organization like this also market for those kinds of people? Because some of these crafts people, they don't want a website. They don't want to make their own website. They don't want to do that kind of stuff on their own. So maybe how could your, if you're involved in business, how could you, what tips could you give us and help us develop maybe to make an online store? With education, we have school groups, and we need help, maybe just developing some stuff for kids to do. When we do events in the summer, we also try to add some kids events, and maybe some people who are involved in education could help us develop some of that stuff. And then really, even if you have any hobbies, I mean, if anybody plays music, if you play, country, bluegrass, or Celtic music, if you do anything like that, call us, and maybe we can get you up here for an event. If anybody likes gardening, I mean, we've got historic flower beds up here that you, as you would have seen it in the late 1800s, in the Victorian era. And we also need help maintaining those. If you're an outdoorsy kind of person, we need help with trails and flower beds and stuff like that. So, Kester, what else should I consider and talk about?
Well, I can't really think of anything. We did say that our kind of our group service product, in a sense, would be like a book club to get people aware of Rugby literature and Appalachian culture. We can also find ways that, I know that after talking with you, we could definitely find ways and this is to the whole club. If there are any ways that you want to get involved in Rugby, maybe you don't want to head a book club, but you want to help with the marketing plan or help with something, that can be our service project this year, because we're trying to find ways we can get rugby out there. So definitely, if there's any way, if you need experience or something like that, you know, or anything, please let me or Tammy or especially Jordan know. And we'll definitely be in communication with you, Jordan, for sure, regarding everything we do. So.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and I apologize for for being so tardy.
That's totally okay. Well, it's about 11:53, so I know some people may have a 12 o'clock class, but before we end off this meeting, is there anyone who has any questions in general, or would anyone like to share about what they're looking for, why they joined the club, and what they're gaining from Rural Reimagined, so that we could help you find ways to pursue those interests or passions? Anyone would like to share their thing really quick?
I personally, my name is Brennan, by the way. I personally approached the club just because I was talking to Kester, and I figured it would be a good way to build community with some people and also learn in general, because this is not a topic that's ever really crossed me. Rural community, and we did some outreach stuff there, but really it's never quite been where my mind is at. So I'm just really eager to learn all there is about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Brennan, for coming. And we're glad that you came. And I know we dropped a lot of good information about Rural Reimagined and Rugby here in this meeting. So thank you for coming. We hope that you come and would love to get involved in our project. And if there's any way you want to get involved with Rugby or anything else, please just let us know. Would anyone else like to share there?
Yeah, this is Josie McQuail again, Kester. I just wondered if you're planning on having students share their experiences with their service learning, because I noticed my two 4995 students are on the call, and they're going to have to do a service learning project, so they could do theirs this semester. I'm not sure their availability in spring, but towards the end of this semester, they might be able to do something, and they get extra credit for being involved.
Definitely. Even if you're not getting extra credit, you still get a great satisfaction of knowing that you're helping serve rural areas, or at least being aware and more exposed to them. So thank you, Dr. McQuail, for coming. Thank you, Jordan, for coming too. And Dr. Blair for speaking. I appreciate all of your, thank you so much for speaking, and appreciate all of your information and all of your ways of sharing all the ways we could get involved in rugby.
Well, thank you for your time, and I also want Mr. Blair to say something also. But I was going to say, I'm going to put in the chat, I'm going to put my contact information if anybody would like to have it, okay?
Definitely. And we will share that in our future email correspondences as well. So
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jordan. Dr. McQuail, Dr. Blair, were you going to say anything before we?
No, I'm just nodding and acknowledging everyone for being here. So this is
Dr. Blair, would that be a good service learning project for a student to help you with the workshop, maybe?
It would be. I think extra credit would be in order. I think service learning, it would be a great line on your resume to say you were an artist assistant for a Rural Reimagined art project. So I'll put my email in the chat. You can also email Kester. So if you're really interested in being creative, even you might be a chemistry major. I'm telling you, this is as much chemistry as it is art. So let me know, and I can show you the ropes and introduce you to the village and everything.
Definitely.
I know that there's been some exhibits, or at least inclusion in books, of Emily Hughes's photography, but boy, she's an interesting subject. And for 4995, if anybody's interested in photography and trying to go through Emily's photographs, the archives at Rugby are also just amazing. I would encourage students to check out the archives.
For sure. Definitely. Well, if there are no questions, well, I'm going to stick around here. If anyone has any questions or would just like to talk about their ideas for service projects or things or interests or stuff like that, since I don't have I know some people may have a 12 o'clock class, and I'll be sticking around here. So I guess I guess this is meeting adjourned, so officially. So thank you.
Chester, when is our next meeting?
Oh, so our next meeting will be 2 weeks from now. So Tuesday, September 29th at 11 a.m. It will be via Zoom again. It will be the same format. So we'll have information dissemination. We'll have speakers, and I'm getting that figured out. And but hopefully our speakers will be different areas. So we're gonna have education people and economics and entrepreneurs and nursing and anything. So that way you can learn about the many opportunities there are on campus and in the community to get involved in rural. So I'm gonna stick around, and if anyone has any questions or would just like to chat, I know, just please stick around. But thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you at our next meeting. So feel free to look out for our next emails.